Hello, beautiful people of the world. Welcome back to the Happy Idea Show. Here you can learn and flourish with the thoughts, ideas, and the stories of the lifestyle legend. I'm your happiness host, Happy Bains here, certified career and lifestyle advancement coach and instructor. I am delighted today to share with you a great news about financial wisdom. But before we start that, I have a question for you to ask yourself, or even just think about it. Why so many people struggle or cannot make decision into their financial department of their life? What is that one thing that holds them to not to flourish in their financial area, especially into money matters? For individual or for the business entrepreneurs who are seasoned or even starting, there is always an obstacle, challenging problem that we face in a day-to-day life. We know so many things that is available to us not only on Google, but there are millions and thousands of books and instructor and coach and all, but we still procrastinate or we delay or we don't make decision. Why is that? I was once there, and I found out the reason that procrastination and indecision is the mother cause of all suffering. It leads us to pain, stress, anxiety, and so on. So, what we can do to understand the financial department of our life, how we can advance, how we can reach out to the people who have done the better way, strategically making plans and taking things ahead in their life. Today, I have a second to none, my special guest, dignified guest who sponsored this episode. His name is Kevin Feig. He is in a season over 2 decades. He's into finance industry and he's been teaching coaching for individual and corporate people how to advance their lifestyle and financial department. Let's hear from Kevin.
Welcome to the Happy Idea Show. Hello, beautiful people of the world. Here today I am with one of the finest, profound, genius finance advisor and a coach, Kevin Feig. Kevin, welcome to Happy Idea Show. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Lovely. It's an
I will
honor.
try to live up to your expectations on that intro.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a generous coming back here, but you do deserve that because you earned it. From last, I believe, over 2 decades, you've been in this industry of finance and helping individuals individually and to the employers and all. So we have a lot of to cover today, but we will see what best we can do to inspire our clients, your existing clients, and our lovely audience out there. So Kevin, please tell us about how did you start the career? What idea did you got in the beginning to start this career you are in today? Fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say growing up, I was never one of those folks who knew what they wanted to be when they grew up. I was always jealous of those folks. My best friend from home is a police officer, and he always wanted to be a police officer. And I envied that, right? To have that thing, whatever it is that you want to do. And I never had that. And so, went to school and went to business school and was an accounting major. I don't know why, right? I just sort of fell into it. And then I started working at an accounting firm. So I worked at KPMG, wow, which is one of the largest sort of accounting firms. And I was on the sort of external audit side. So you'd go to clients and you'd sort of review their financial statements and make sure they were sort of complete and accurate. And so my clients when I was at KPMG, just out of college, were primarily consumer products. So Pepsi was one of my clients. And so I worked in New York at Pepsi and I drank too much soda. I ate too many Lay's chips and that's sort of, it was easy to understand. Another one of my clients was Domino Sugar, which is a huge sugar company. Okay. And so you had these, sort of these experiences, but of going through the financial world, but it was all through physical consumer products, right? So you can touch it, feel it, taste it. It was all sort of easy to understand. And at the time I was living in New York, and my now wife was from Massachusetts. And so we were engaged. One of us was going to move. It was me. Yeah. And so I moved to Massachusetts. And when I was going to move, I decided to start looking for a new job and something different. And I interviewed at Fidelity Investments, one of the largest sort of financial service firms in the world. And I interviewed in the internal audit group.
Okay.
And so sort of protecting the company, if you will. And that was the primary focus, protecting the company, protecting the customers. And I remember during my interview at Fidelity, I told them I knew absolutely nothing about financial services, which was 100% true.
You're so generous and humble.
Yeah, I didn't, unless you grow up in this sort of world, right, of finance and money, it's hard to understand. It's hard to navigate. And it seems almost like sort of an elusive, I think, magic trick, right? I think about investing in the stock market or things like that. It's hard to grasp and hard to understand, right? And I go back to where I was working. Pepsi was easy to understand, right? You understood soda, you understood sales, that sort of thing. And so, despite my ridiculously honest answers, Fidelity made me a job offer, or gave me a job offer anyway, and then I was in different roles at Fidelity for about 15 years. And it was great. It's a terrific company. I enjoyed my time. I worked a lot in the audit group and then also in the risk
Okay.
group. So looking at, protecting the company and protecting the customers. And it was terrific. And then Coinbase, which is a huge cryptocurrency exchange, Coinbase reached out to me on LinkedIn
Yeah.
and they asked me if I'd be interested in coming over and working at Coinbase. And I wasn't looking to leave Fidelity, but it was certainly an interesting opportunity. It was an interesting opportunity for me to just learn more, right? So the world of crypto is a whole nother world, right? It was almost like me going
Yes.
from the consumer products to financial services at Fidelity, and now it was a way to just sort of learn more. And so I thought this is a great opportunity. Why not? And so I joined Coinbase and had a great run. I was there from sort of the start of when they went public, which was sort of the height of all things crypto.
Yeah.
And then we went through sort of crypto winter, and then I was left with sort of trying to still answer that. I'm too old to say I got to answer that question of what I want to be when I grow up, but I was still looking to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And for me, I've always along the way, I've sort of gained a level of knowledge and
Yeah.
certifications. I'm a certified public accountant. I'm a certified financial planner, and I wasn't necessarily using those certifications, right? I just sort of had gained them because I wanted to learn more. And then I sort of decided to start my own company, and so now I'm sort of running Walk You to Wealth, and Walk You to Wealth. The whole idea behind the company is how do you give more folks access to financial planning and
True.
coaching? And the way the industry works, at least in the United States, is a lot of it, at least from my personal opinion, is sort of backwards.
Hmm.
And backwards from the standpoint of, a lot of financial advisors and coaches and planners are focused on,
Yeah.
the wealthy, right? And helping the wealthy get wealthier.
Yeah.
And because it's the nature of the way, they're charging and the way, assets work, et cetera. And then, there's so much of the country that just it's sort of unapproachable, right? They can't access it, and that's hard. And so, my idea was how do you do something that's sort of, low cost, low barriers to entry, and
Yeah.
just help people, right? Help people sort of figure it out, help people understand how money works,
Yeah.
and how investments work, and how to do all the things that you're never taught to do. Right, you get to a certain age, right, and I'm
Yes.
I'm 44 now, right, but you get to a certain age, and you're an
Wow.
adult. I'll say in quotes, and so whether that's in your 20s or in your 30s, right, but you're all of a sudden you're an adult, and you're just supposed to know how to do all of this financial
So true.
stuff. You're supposed to know how to pay your bills and budget and invest, but no one ever taught any of us how to do any of it. And
Yes.
you're at such a disadvantage. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is just sort of help as many folks as possible.
Lovely. That's very great, and I really admire that how you got inspired and then being a humble beginning. You went for the interviews, and then you end up being honest, which was not in their favor, but you landing up a wonderful opportunity, Pepsi, and so on. Thanks so much for sharing this, Kevin. And so let's start with the individual first, and then we will jump over to the employers and entrepreneurs and all. How would an individual, what an individual should know before and after for once they start their financial planning? So if you can
Yep.
just shed some beautiful light on that, please.
Yeah, so I would say before they start, they should know, and we try to flesh this out with all my clients. But why do you want more money, right?
Okay.
So, and I try to flesh this out with clients. You think about goals, right? So I always look at goals from two different perspectives. Big picture, right? So I haven't met anyone happy who doesn't want more money. But why they want more money is drastically different, right? So I ask clients sort of a handful of questions
Yeah.
that helps them get a little bit deeper than just like, I want more money, right?
Yeah.
Like, why? What do you really want out of it? Is it to take care of your family, your aging parents? Is it to travel the world? Like, what
Yeah.
are you really going after? And so that's important to know and to sort of flesh out. And we do
Okay.
that sort of early on when I first start working with clients. And then you want goals that are more tactical, right? So you want to make sure you're getting down to very granular. I always say, like, dream big, plan little, right? So dream big. What are those big overarching goals?
Nice.
But then let's plan for all the little pieces of the puzzle: buying a home, saving for education for a child, getting
Yeah.
married, taking vacations, right? Like let's plan
True.
for these big financial events in your life. And so I always say to folks, think about your goals, why you want more money, and also try to find someone who's a good fit. A big part of financial planning is you want someone who's certainly qualified. There's no
Yeah.
shortage of people out there on social media giving out financial advice, and you want to try to avoid that at all costs.
True.
But you want to find someone who's qualified, but you want to find someone who's a good fit. It's like a doctor, right? You want a doctor who has good bedside manner, and
True.
and you want to
Special.
you want to make sure it's someone you can. Money is a really sensitive topic. It's a really vulnerable topic. It's a
True.
topic that what I find with a lot of folks is they feel embarrassed and ashamed about where they are. And I always tell you start where you are, right? So like try to find someone to help you. Try to find someone that you can trust, you can build a
Lovely.
relationship with, and it's going to be worth every dollar that you spend.
No, definitely. That's a very wonderful and very smart answer you gave. And most of the young adults or even little mature folks, they do struggle and drift around in this area when it comes to financial planning. It's like someone is putting your hand in your pocket. They feel fear or paralyzed. They don't want to take this action because it costs. As you said, someone who fits means you're trying to hire or a company with the financial or professional people because they come with fees. Nothing is free as a lunch, what you said. So most of the time when they will try to hire someone and they will hear about the freeze and they will step back. So they procrastinate and they go dilly-dally and go around the corners and listen to every next person, as you said, on social media and try to do things. And dumb things brings the dumb answers. So hiring professionals is one of my recommendations too as well. I always suggest that if your golden chain has been broken, you don't have to go to the cobbler. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
so if your shoes are broken and not shining, you go to the
Yeah.
cobbler, not to the goldsmith. So we need to take wise decision as well in the beginning stage, but it costs, but then it reduces the stress for the coming year. Now let's jump to yes.
And happy. Sorry, I'm glad you said stress.
No,
So I see clients. I usually get from when I'm meeting with potential clients. One of the questions I ask is sort of what metrics do you track, and I certainly track financial related metrics associated with clients and progress.
yes,
But I would say the number one, and it's harder to track, is financial confidence. And that's
I
what I
love it.
want from my clients more than anything else. Like I want them to understand their money. I want them to feel more in control of their
True,
money. And that's huge, right? Being able to
true.
take that step and the level of anxiety and financial anxiety, and then that bleeds into, the rest of your life, right? Your personal relationships,
True.
it bleeds into your health. There's so much about money from a stress and financial anxiety perspective
Yes,
that can be solved through knowledge and working with someone that you
lovely.
trust and that is qualified.
No, that's definitely a valid point out there, and a lot of folks who are already seasoned and those who understand this game of finance, how the money works and why it works and why it should be important, they will understand well. So I'm going to start this question with A and B too as well. So the A is starting with the folks who are not individual. Now they're starting a startup business. In the beginning of a startup business, what are the crucial things they should understand, educate themselves? And then I will ask the B1 for the more seasoned one. So in the individual one who are starting up a business, they don't have a financial structure, but they have great, wonderful ideas, lucrative ideas, but they don't know how to take steps. So how do you help them, sir?
Yeah, I would say there's two things, Happy. I always think, one, I run into a lot of clients who are business obsessed, and sometimes in a good way, sometimes not. I run into some potential clients who will tell me, they've started 5 different business. They're a serial entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and they'll use terms like that, but yet none of these businesses have made any money. And
True.
sometimes I think, I think a traditional job, a 9 to 5, there's nothing wrong with starting a business, right? Taking a shot.
True.
And I'm all for that. And I encourage my
Yeah.
clients to do so. But there's also, sometimes I think we glamorize having, starting your own business. And it's sort of this fantasy of how it is. And
Yeah.
I can say having done both, right? So now I have my own business. I've worked in corporate America though. They're both really hard. in different ways. And so I always, tell folks, make sure you got to go into it with eyes wide open. And so you want to make sure you're doing that. And you also want to make sure that, you have a financial plan for you. And that's not just reliant on this one business, this one idea, right?
True.
It's somewhat similar to your, we all read about the Zuckerbergs and Musk and all these folks that sort of went all in on their business and it worked out. But for every one of them, there's thousands that fail, and you just want to make sure
Hmm.
you have that right balance and you have that safety net. And so
Yes.
for clients, it's always about helping them strategize of what's the
Strategy.
best way to sort of separate, if you will, your personal financial life and your
Lovely.
plan from this business, and then how do they sort of feed in and complement each other.
Lovely. Yeah, this is wonderfully explained and a very smart answer you gave that strategize. I think strategy for daily living, strategy for finance, and I think it can set a benchmark for an individual life. And that's why you come in a picture as a seasoned, experienced person to create the strategy. So people who are struggling or want to advance, and I think they can reach out Kevin definitely. And so the question, that second, the same question
Yeah.
with the B. Now, the people who are already seasoned, established entrepreneurs, successful business people, now still they have some hurdles, hoops, hurdles, and the indecisions or making not a brave or bold move for financial and all. How in this scenario you help them to the seasoned entrepreneurs to advance and expedite their financial revenue percentage and so on?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. For me, especially during my time working at companies, so at Coinbase and at Fidelity, it's all about being able to take a complicated decision and simplify it, right?
Okay.
And break it down, right? Ultimately, whether it's an investment, whether it's a decision to start a business, whatever your decision is, there are pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
And just being able to lay those out, but in a simplistic way. And I'll always tell clients, especially when sometimes there's really personal decisions, right? Like folks selling their home, right? Deciding to make that move is a big personal decision.
Yes.
And I often will have clients say to me sort of, what would you do? And as I always tell clients, I would never present a recommendation or an idea that I would not do. But I'm also always quick to say, here's the option I would take. Right
Yeah.
now, but I'm different than you. Right? That may not be the best option for you, but here's the option I would take, and here's why.
Yeah.
And so it's all about just making the decisions sort of as simple as possible and laying them out in a way
Yeah.
that's easy to understand.
No, that's beautiful. Well said that. Now, Kevin, please explain us about that the financial aspect, like into a little bit more into stock and investing and all. When clients comes and you are talking about the financial aspect, for again, the question A will be the immature person who are a beginner in this industry into financial, especially into stocks, bonding, and investment point of view. Doesn't matter even real estate. How would you educate and you teach and coach them to generate revenue in that area? And how do you create a strategic plan for individual who want to start into investments?
Yeah, I know that, and that's where I see sort of my clients across the board. So I have clients all different ages, all different backgrounds, and so for me, it's about it's a lot of it's education, right? So everyone works differently. I don't think it does. I'll use the stock market.
Yeah.
I don't think it does a client any good to say go invest in the stock market and go and invest or buy this fund or buy this stock if
Yeah.
they don't understand what it is that they're doing and why they're doing it. Same
Yeah.
with like opening a certain type of investment account, right? I just don't think it does you any good if you don't understand why and how it works. And so for me, I always start with let's learn, right? Let's start with the education piece of the
True.
puzzle. And
True.
also too, if I work with a client for 12 months and let's say they've learned a lot and they feel financially confident to work on their own
Yeah.
and to sort of that's great. Like that's terrific. Like I look at folks as if they're no longer working with me, then I've won. So I look at my business a little bit differently, and so it's certainly a different model. And so I
Okay.
want folks to feel financially confident, but you need to learn. And after we learn, like if we're just learning, so let's learning about the stock market or real estate or different investments. If we're just learning, but we're never taking the right actions, like we're never moving the needle, that
Yeah.
doesn't help either. So I always look at it as we want to learn, we want to make sure we're implementing, making
True.
changes, and then we want to make sure we're tracking progress.
Yeah.
Right. So we want to make sure we're making adjustments. Life happens. So
True.
the goals that you have, I'm sure happy for you too, right? The goals that you had at 26 are different than 36.
Yeah.
And where your life takes you is different. And so you want to be able to have a plan that you can adjust, right? And you can
Yes.
come back to and say, no, I don't want to do that. Or I want to do this, right? I want a new
Lovely.
career, or I want a new house, or I decided I'm going to have another child, or whatever it may be. And so you want to have a plan that's flexible and so that's where it helps to have someone that you're working with on at least a periodic basis, right? I'll go
Yeah.
back to the doctor analogy. There are years where you're going to be healthy and maybe you're going in for your annual physical, and everyone's like, yeah, you're still on the right track, you're looking great. And then there are years where you're probably not so great, right? You're sick and you're not feeling that great, and you're seeing your doctor more often, and hopefully he or she is able to get you feeling better. It's the same
Yeah.
idea with money, right? You want both of those scenarios, because you're going to have years where financially you're going to be struggling, and you're going to have years where financially you're going to be in a great spot, but you want to make sure you have someone that you can sort of connect in with on a regular
Lovely. So
basis.
connections and a lot of learning, educating in
Yeah.
the line of the field where he or she wanted to pursue those financial areas, and to grow in that can be helpful. So that's learning. I think learning never ends. People, those who learn, as someone said profoundly, I believe it's to Jim Rohn or someone, the more you learn, the more you earn. The fast you learn, the fast you earn. I think it's a great, simple philosophy. Now, let's simply connecting to this same question now. People who are already investing, they're seasoned and successful investors and all, and they do get little stuck. Do you also help them to advance their financial strategy, one, or you also help them to merge with other bigger investors and help that sort of things too, to bring
Yeah,
in the
from an investment perspective, I always look at it whether you're seasoned or you're not seasoned. I always want folks to understand their options, right? So we live in I mean, arguably the greatest time to be an investor. I think about here in the States, you can invest in the stock market for free, right? I mean, that's fairly unbelievable. And so to be able to have access to the stock market, you think about crypto, which didn't even exist,
Yeah.
a decade ago. So you think about all these sort of changes and the way the investment world has opened up. You think about crowdfunding options
Yeah.
for real estate. The fact that you could own shares of houses,
Yeah.
it's just unbelievable. So for me, I go back to the education piece. I always want clients to understand, and it's sort of usually this eye-opening moment, right? We go through like, here's everything you have access to. And
Yeah.
it's pretty huge. Doesn't mean they're all great options. Doesn't mean they're all great options for you as an individual. But I want you to understand everything you have access to and that you could invest in.
Okay.
And then we sort of narrow down what makes sense for you. I mean, I haven't found a perfect asset. The only perfect assets are the ones that someone's trying to sell you,
Yeah.
because they make them sound perfect. They don't exist. And so it's about just figuring out what makes sense for you and what you feel good about investing in. And so for me, it's bringing clients along on that journey, right? And educating them and helping them to make their own decisions. And again,
Lovely.
there's not a perfect way to invest. I mean, if there were a perfect asset allocation out there, everybody would move to it, and then it would no longer be
Exactly.
perfect. And so it's just about figuring out what do you believe in, and where do you want to sort of, I'll say, place your bets, for lack of a better term, right? What makes
Okay.
sense for you?
Lovely. No, that's a wonderful answer. Like, very straightforward, but yet very practical. And I think when we don't assume things, we get great results. Assumption, I think, is the greatest mother cause of all failure and frustration. Assumptions puts us on a lower bracket of success pyramid. And people who are practical, who believe in asking and growing together, and they achieve remarkable results. Thanks. Now, Kevin, please tell us, like, how does the AI is shaping the market in corporate and the investment area? What are the changes or improvement, or you think, well, in according to your expertise,
Yeah.
what AI is doing with the capital investments or individual investments, and how is it helping or is it confusing? Can you share some ideas on
Yeah,
that?
I'd say it's both. So I would say it's one of those. It's like any one. I think it is a sort of a game changing sort of technology, right? So I think sometimes there's buzz around things, and it's just buzz, right? For buzz sake. I don't think that's certainly not the case with AI. I'll go back to even crypto from a decade ago, right? There was so much buzz around crypto, and there's reason for that, right? And so it is sort of a game changing technology on the blockchain and crypto side as well. And I think AI is somewhat similar. But you know, like anything else that happens and that spurs sort of innovation, right? Sometimes it gets ahead of itself, and I think you're seeing some of that now in terms of the amount of buzz that AI sort of has generated. But ultimately, I mean, I think it's a win. I think it's going to be an interesting adjustment for folks. You think about even outside of, I'll say, my industry, but you think about like artists and cartoonists and things like
Yeah.
that. Like my kids, I have two young kids, right? Well, we read a lot of picture
Yes.
books, and I'm like, will anyone be drawing these picture books, right? When I could just generate it on AI. So there are a lot of interesting conversations, interesting roles to be had. But ultimately, I think, people will adapt, right? And people will figure out, better things to do, better ways to use their time, better ways to use their energy. And so net win.
Yeah.
But it certainly will be, I think, a rocky road getting there and figuring it all out.
Oh, fantastic. No, that's a very wonderful answer. Clear, straightforward. Now, Kevin, that's thanks for sharing. Actually, it's a lot of still. It's like we are in the baby stage, I believe, of AI, and people are trying to educate themselves. Those who are smarter, who live on the AI business and profession, they are reaping the rewards. But those who want to learn, it's unending. Like as we say that if we are not with the trend, we are not moving forward. We've been throwing backward because Mother Nature hates idealism. If we are not learning and staying still stagnant, we are going backward actually. So it's not everything we need to learn all the 100,000 apps out there, but what is related to our market, our field, our profession, which help us to grow more smarter, financially advancement, and I think that's one should be doing in his or her profession too. Yeah. Thanks so much. Now, can you tell us how do you build and maintain the winning strategy with your clients?
Yeah, so I don't have any secret there. At the end of the day, I'm overly honest. You could tell that from my Fidelity Investments interview story. And I am who I am, so I would say I'm 100% authentic. And so I think I go back to the whole fit piece of the puzzle, right? As you're trying to find a financial planner or advisor or coach to work with, you want someone that you can trust, and you want someone you feel really good about. And I'd say, with my clients, one thing that I do with my clients from a contractual perspective is, we don't have a long-term contract. And so we have a 6 months that we'll work together. And after 6 months, if this just isn't a good fit for you, or it's not a good fit for me, I'm at the point in my life where I don't want to work with someone who I don't want to work with. Right? I want this to be a mutually good fit. And I hate long-term contracts. I think everybody hates long-term contracts. I don't want anyone to feel locked into meetings with me. And so after 6 months, I always call it an escape clause. It's sort of, either one of us can escape the contract. And I think it's a win-win. I want to make sure I'm putting my best foot forward, right? And I want to make sure my clients are doing the same. Financial planning and coaching, it only works if your clients are willing to do the work, right? Okay. There's only so much you can do. You can make recommendations. You can be convincing. You can be a great, I'll say, salesman of an idea. But they need to then execute that idea. Okay. Right. And so it takes a level of trust, and it takes a level of commitment from your clients. And so for me, I'd say the secret is just building good, solid relationships, and folks understanding that there are no tricks up my sleeve. What you see is what you get. It's sort of an honest approach to finance, which I think sometimes is hard to find.
Lovely. You do also a lot of coaching and training as well. It must be very common, as I do. I'm also certified career lifestyle advancement coach and instructor. So how do you deal with the people who are lazy in learning or procrastinating? Because, you putting your whole head and heart and your 2 decades of expertise and all, they come to you, even sometimes they pay, but they don't do the exercise, the homework, the assignment, do research and study. How do you deal them? How do you empower them, or you let them go?
Yeah, so it's both, I would say. So you do your best to sort of get them there, right? And motivate them. And that's where I go back to, from a financial perspective, right? I always start with those goals, right? So what are those bigger picture goals? What are they going after? If you're going after, you want to be able to travel the world and see the world, right? We'll talk through that. And so trying to motivate them as best I can. But then it gets to a point, happy to where you were going, where maybe I'm not the right one to motivate them. Right? Or maybe they'll never get motivated, right? So there's something to be said for that too, right? Maybe there's no one that can do it, or maybe I'm just not the right person for the job. And so at that point, that's when, I always put in my best effort with everybody I work with. But yeah, sometimes it's just not a perfect fit. And if it's not, then it's probably best for them to find someone who is. Like, I don't want anyone spending money on my service if they're not willing to do the work. And I also don't want to take their money if they're not willing to do their work.
No, that's being honest and humble. Yeah, I do have a lot of young entrepreneurs and young individuals comes as well too, because it's so very common for them for drifting. They drift a lot, and there's a lot of indecision. I think indecision is the mother cause of all suffering. And even when guided by the mentors and coach and all seasoned, who are in particular in the line of the field, sometimes they still hesitate not to take decisions and think about risk.
I try to be sorry, Happy. I try to be really tangible in terms of what we want to get done by when, right? So, and we'll talk through that. So, I'm not gonna say, let's open this account by X date, right? Or let's say it's an investment account or something like that, right? But we'll talk through why we want to do that and when we want to do it by. And let's say it's, June or July, right? And then we'll track that in our system that we both have access to. And it's a way for us to just keep each other honest. And
Yeah,
it's not necessarily about, let's say it's a target date for the end of May and the client didn't get there till June. It's not about, sort of chastising anyone. It's just about this is our roadmap and
yeah,
we have target dates and we have actions and we execute and push them forward.
yeah,
And so some of those goals and items are harder than others.
yeah,
I have some clients who are struggling in credit card debt and that's not something that you're going to get out of overnight. And some of those are harder, harder and I'd say more boring goals, right? Like from a wealth perspective, there's nothing more boring than building emergency funds or getting out of credit card debt, but they're key steps that you need to take. And
yeah,
so being able to show them the bigger picture and where that's going to get them,
yeah.
helps. And then also with most of my clients, I meet with them on a monthly basis. And so it helps to have a frequent check-in,
Lovely.
just depending on where they are.
Lovely. No, that's Mastermind Alliance, accountability at the end of the month. That is, you check on them like a pilot does his checklist before flying the plane and landing off, and you cannot just rely on his own memory. So we need a checklist. I think someone's very well said that more than education, we need reminders. So that's
Especially
what
me.
you.
My memory's terrible, Happy.
Oh no, it's okay. Mine is a little good. I can share with you. Well, thanks for sharing. Now, tell me, Kevin, please, when you do, you help a lot of business entrepreneurs to start their business. Now, according to the risk which you are talking about, what are the risks owners should know before starting their individual business? From
Yeah, I would say that, you always want to look at what you're starting, where you're starting. And so it's the same with even personal finances, right? So you want to look at what risks do you currently have, right? So you
okay,
start where you are, right? So what are the risks to you personally, from a business perspective? And so you want to look at obviously things like insurance, both personal and professional. You want to look at sort of obviously your opportunity within the market. I'm not from an entrepreneur perspective, and just how I'll use for me starting my business. I didn't personally believe in writing a 35-page business plan.
yeah,
My business model is helping people.
love,
And that's essentially it. So I don't think sometimes I think to your point, we overthink things and we overcomplicate them.
yeah,
But for me, it's all about, intelligent risk taking,
yeah,
right? So you can't avoid, and it's the same when I worked at Fidelity and Coinbase. If you avoid all risk, I mean, one, you're not going to have a great life. You won't really enjoy it much, right? But two, you're not going to get there from a financial or career perspective either, right? You need to take some risks,
yes,
and so it's a matter of just taking the intelligent ones, taking the smart ones,
yeah,
and it's hard to get that 100% right. But you take a shot, and you sort of, if you fail fast, and you
yes,
learn from that,
yeah,
and then you move on. Where I see a lot of, from a personal finance perspective, a lot of clients struggling is sort of looking backward, right? You
yeah,
look back at what you're dwelling on your sort of past financial mistakes, and you think back to, well, I'll just go back to credit card debt, right? You think about, what got you into that credit card debt? Was it,
oh,
overspending? Was it a medical issue? Whatever it may be, and you dwell on it. And if you dwell on the past, especially financially, it's almost impossible to move the
to
needle
grow.
forward in the present. Yeah, it's so hard. And
Go
so
on.
it's important to sort of, you are where you are, you start where you are. You learn from the past, but you also forget it, right? Like you take the lessons from it, but you just can't dwell on the past. And then you
Now,
need to
dwelling
sort
is
of chart a path forward.
I understand totally. Thank you so much. Now let's talk about your one of the finest book, which I'm really, really admire, and this is how we know each other and connected. Walk You Do Well. How did you come up with that title, one, and also how you got an idea to write this book? Please share with us.
Yeah, so the title for the book is the same as my company, Walk You to Wealth. And the title came from, so I have two boys who are now 12 and 10. And my boys, whenever sort of a neighborhood friend was over playing, my wife would always ask them to walk their friend home, right? And walk them home at the end. And I thought to myself, like, you know, we've all probably been walked home, hopefully at some point, right? A date, a
Yeah,
parent, right? And there's no there's no ulterior motive, right? The idea is just I want to make sure you get home safely.
True.
And that's the same idea with wealth. So it came from just that simple gesture of my wife just always reminding my sons to walk their friends home. And I thought,
Yeah.
that's what I want to do for folks from a wealth perspective, right?
Lovely.
I want them to feel like there is no ulterior motive, right? I just want to make sure they get there safely, wherever that is for them, right? And it's always your wealth journey is always a little bit different. But that's where the title came from. The book, when I first started writing the book, I mean, I probably wrote 15 pages and I was like, oh, that's all I know. That's it. That's enough.
That's not
And
no, wind up.
yeah, and I was like, well, I guess it's a bit more of a blog post at this point. But I worked on it over the course of a long time. It came
True.
together quickly at the end. But I just kept sort of adding and adding. And for me, I've read my fair share of personal finance books, and
Yeah.
and some of them are great. Some are difficult. Some are really technical. And I think that's hard for folks. This was meant to be sort of like an easy read. It's filled with a ton of personal stories
Nice.
from my financial journey. It's filled with stories about my family,
Yeah.
my kids, and it's an easier personal finance read that I
Okay.
think anyone can sort of pick up, and it's also actionable, right? So some personal
Like that.
finance books, I think, leave you like, what do I do now?
Yes.
And so after each of the steps that I go through, it's sort of like, here's what you can do
True.
if you want to sort of start on this journey. So it's meant to be just a way to help folks.
Lovely, and I really emphasize on that the thing which you just said that is so profound and very preeminent, that not what to learn and what like how to do. How to do the things are very tough. That very rare folks and author comes out and they explain that part rather than redundant that same example stories on and on. And I'm not criticizing. I'm a co-author of my first book too. It's called 17 Principles to Success. Pathway to a Positive Mental Attitude, which I wrote along with my Mastermind Alliance from the Polo Hill Foundation students who got certified instructor. So writing is difficult, but again, it's possible. Anything is possible in a line of our field. We can jot down, so empty our mind on paper and explain our personal experience shared with combining with others' experience. It can enhance someone's life. So I'm very delighted. I'm very happy that actually that you came up with this title, "Walk You to the Wealth." I think when you walk you to the wealth, and all the doors open by itself by default, I guess.
Yeah, no, well, two things. One, congratulations on your book. So
Thank you.
that's great. And two, to your point, I always think of, I mentioned I have two boys, like, and they're both sort of, very different, which is great, right? They get along great, but they're very different personality wise, and everyone learns differently. And that's where, like, I wrote the book, and then I also sort of, meet with clients sort of individually, and we'll go through a lot of the same concepts, but, or even, doing a podcast like this, where hopefully folks can take some of these pieces of education and wisdom, but everyone learns differently, and it's hard to have sort of one way. So the book was just one path where if you can pick up a book, read it, and then take action, then yeah, that's a great option for you, right? So for $20 or whatever it's selling for on Amazon, right, you can go and you can hopefully start your journey to wealth. And then if you need more than that, right, and a lot of folks do financially, then you can reach out and work with me or work with someone else that makes sense and is a good fit for you. But
Fantastic.
it's a good way to get started.
Fantastic. I like your humble and straightforward yet very polite answers. Like, work with you or someone who fits in all. I think that's a great consulting. This is great salesmanship to not to force someone and all. And then you reach that pinnacle of your stage on the higher bracket that you're very wise with. That advice is that if it is me, then you sounds good and you're welcome. Otherwise, there are people out there. And that's
Yep.
what the genuine things which we like to read more in our books. Upcoming books or existing book, like leading the pathway to the success or financial, personal, spiritual, and so on. Okay, Kevin, this is wonderful first section we did. Let's do the second round we call Make the World Happy round. So your short, sweet, humorous answers are ready. So are you ready for that, sir?
I'll do my best.
Okay, all right, here you are first. So tell us, what does lifestyle mean to you?
Lifestyle means family to me.
Okay.
So my wife has been married for 17 years. Hopefully that's right.
Wow.
If not, she'll correct me when she listens to this. But I think 17 is right. It's been a while. And I have two boys, 12 and 10, who are, my family is my life and my lifestyle.
Fantastic. I couldn't agree with that. Like, family, what matters. Thank you so much. So what does happiness mean to you?
Happiness means laughter. So hearing, especially with my boys. So I'm not, when they were 5 and 3, I was the funniest person in the world, Happy. Everything you do is funny at that point, and they're much easier at 12 and 10. But I have to work really hard to get a laugh now. It's a lot of work. But I miss those days of being funny all the time. But I do cherish when they laugh. It's just great. And there's nothing better than just good laughter, especially out of children.
Lovely. And there's only one medicine in the world that can heal any damn thing is happiness, laughter. Laughter is free, smile is free, but
Yeah.
we become so miser not to use it. So I'm sorry. I encourage everybody who is listening, my lovely audience, please do laugh and smile often and make other people laugh too. Be excellent to each other. Okay. Next, thanks. What does failure mean to you?
Failure means, I think failure is a positive. I think that's one of the things we try to teach our kids, especially. And you have to fail. If you're not failing, you're not trying, right? Like if you go through a life, and you've never failed at anything, I would argue you haven't done anything, and you haven't really accomplished anything. And so I think, but there's such a stigma associated with failure,
Yeah.
that we try our best, certainly with our kids, and it's hard. And we try to I failed, we've all failed, but I wouldn't be where I was if I didn't fail. So
Lovely.
yeah, if you're not failing, you're not trying.
Do not try. What a wonderful and simple answer. So, how do you create your innovative ideas?
One, I'm not afraid to steal, Happy.
That's
So
the idea.
if
That's the
someone has a
idea.
better idea, I'm willing to sort of adopt it. And I think sometimes we think that we're the only ones that can come up with great ideas. And sometimes I'm like, no, this is and I'll go back to my days in corporate America. We would spend a lot of time sort of doing presentations, right? And a lot of times in sort of PowerPoint and sheets and those sort of our slides,
Yeah.
and coming up with these great presentations. And we were super visual, and my team was great that worked for me. And so sometimes we'd go to another meeting and we would see something that was so much better than what we were doing. We're like, let's just do that, right?
Yeah.
We're like, let's steal that idea. That's a terrific. So I think sometimes we don't think there's our own ideas are the only ones that are good.
Yeah.
So I think one, don't be afraid to steal. Certainly give credit where you do, and where you can. But I certainly don't think my ideas are the only ones that work. And I think you have to be willing to adopt. And I've seen that more, especially in my career now with Walk You to Wealth, where every client's different. And so some clients will learn a certain way. And then
Okay.
other clients, will have to, they want to go through the clicks, and they want to go through like, how do I actually place this trade, or how do I open this account? And can you share? And I'm always like, it's their money, and I always want to make sure I'm as flexible as I can be, right? Like whatever helps them just sort of get there.
Okay.
And so I think you just need to be flexible in
Great.
your thinking.
That's a very creative thinking, as it will. Well, thanks for explaining this. One of the profound explanation towards the creative thinking ideas. Lovely. Now, Kevin, you have to choose one in discussion. Okay, what do you want more in your life? Love, sex, money, or fame?
Love.
Why?
I have plenty of it, and I'm fortunate in that sense, but I couldn't imagine my life without it.
Okay, fantastic. That's a very, very simple and very lovely answer you're given. Okay, Kevin, do you believe in working harder, smarter, or faster?
I am definitely in the camp of faster. One of my old bosses at Fidelity would joke with me that by the time he asked me to do something, by the time I left the office, it was probably done. So I believe in sort of getting things done as quickly. They have to be quality, right? You always want to make sure you're doing the right thing, especially now with my clients. But
Yeah.
I'm definitely tend to be
Fast,
fast.
Thanks so much for sharing. So, Kevin, according to your intelligence, wise wisdom, and practical thinking so long for over decades, what is most powerful, a thought, an idea, or a story?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
From-
That is the theme of my podcast and show too. Thoughts, ideas, and story of lifestyle legends.
Yeah, for me, I would say it's a story.
Okay.
It makes your ideas and your thoughts and everything else. It makes it all more relatable. Like I mentioned, sort of even talking about my kids, and I talk about that in the book. Like, it takes these sort of abstract concepts, right, and it makes them more real for folks, especially if it's a true sort of personal story. I think stories, it helps you to connect with folks.
Lovely. Thanks so much for this beautiful answer. Thanks. So, what is the best money advice you have ever received?
The best money advice I'd ever received. So I wouldn't say this was money advice I received, but you look back on your you look back on your childhood when you're an adult, right? And you think back to my parents. didn't talk about money a ton, but my parents always paid for everything with cash. Right,
Okay.
and cash was used then more often than it is now. But I think if my parents, my dad still pays for almost everything in cash, and so it's it wasn't like it wasn't a piece of money advice, but I think seeing them sort of spend just what they had, right,
Okay.
and never sort of swiping credit cards or that sort of thing. I didn't understand when I was little
Okay.
what that meant, but looking back on it, I would say seeing especially how hard my dad worked. He worked two jobs growing up, so seeing how hard he worked for his money, seeing him not ever spend beyond his means, but seeing him also spend intentionally and spend on the family and taking us out to dinners and things like that, which he always sort of enjoyed and still does. He's still picking up the tab for us, even if we try
Wow.
to. And so I think you wanna enjoy your money, but you want to also spend within your means.
Fantastic. That's a beautiful answer. Thanks for sharing this fantastic answer. What is the best investment of life or lifestyle, according to you?
It's who you marry.
Oh,
There's so yeah, so there's who you marry is arguably the most important life and financial decision you will ever make. We never think of it as, especially I got married at 26, and now it seems so young. When I was married at 26, and we didn't seem young at the time. But it's such a huge decision, and finding the right person is hard. But when you do, it's a game changer for everything else. Like everything else is not easy, but much easier. So definitely finding the right person who you marry, I'd say, is the number one.
okay, fantastic. So continue with that. I'm gonna just elaborate on the same question because it's a very valuable question for many folks out there now who are trying to get married or already married. So, do you think, do you think that one should pick a spouse who is better than, smarter than them?
So I'd say no. I would say one should pick a spouse that complements them.
Okay,
So I'll use myself. I would never want to marry myself. And someone who is just like me. My wife is fortunately, I wouldn't say my polar opposite, but she's my opposite in a lot of ways, in a lot of important ways. And so you want someone who can complement you. And
okay,
so she's smarter than me in a lot of ways. She would never want to talk about money or finances at all. She wants nothing to do with that world. But yeah, we're very different. So you want someone who complements you more
fantastic.
than anything else.
Caring, compliment, love,
Yeah, yeah, and
compliment.
someone that can make you
These are
better.
these
Yeah.
are better things. Are like we all two sides of coins are not same, tails and heads, and east and west, black and white, up and down, this and that. If it's the same saying parallel, even the railway track are parallel, but they never touch each other, but they complement each other.
Yes.
So that's what the rail goes on the lifestyle. Okay, so now this is the imagination question. Okay, Kevin, imagine, because you're giving a wonderful answer towards this spouse thing, then also I want to continue with imagine that if you believe in God or universe, if God makes you a woman for a day, what will you do more of and less of?
I, I don't think I would do anything differently aside from the fact that about 80% of my clients today, my walk you to wealth clients are female, are
Oh,
women.
wow.
And so, which is sort of almost the exact opposite of most financial planning companies. And so for me, though, I think um, they're generally an underserved population from a
Mhm.
financial planning perspective. And so I'm fortunate to work with so many women. I do think that there's probably a good percentage of women that I could help that are just looking for a female to, like, say, want to work with
Okay,
another female. So
fair
I
enough.
would just help more females, right? If I were female, I'd use that power, if you will, to help more females.
All right. Well, you can wish and you can get that, but I don't want to change the gender. Your wife will come and find me. That's you made my husband different. But I'm not criticizing. It's just a joke, just on a part. So, okay. Well, thanks so much. We're already wrapping up the show now. Just a few more questions, and Kevin, we're done. So, what is your favorite word or a quote that you inspire or inspire others?
So I would say we have a family sort of saying, if you will. So a bunch of years ago, we were on vacation and we were at Universal Studios, which for folks in the US, sort of like a Disney World, if you will. And it
Yes.
was pouring rain, just teeming. It was just coming down in buckets. And we were we were on our way to the parks to go do roller coasters and all that fun stuff. And it just started pouring. And so we were huddled in like this little souvenir store and just waiting for it to pass. And we waited maybe 10, 15 minutes and it's just coming down and it's never going to stop.
Yeah.
And I said, let's just go. Let's just go to the park. And I remember my kids looked at me like I was crazy. My wife also gave me that look. And I think I said to them at the time, when other families say why, we say why not. Like, and other families, like, were in there saying, like, why would we go outside in the rain? I said, why wouldn't we go outside in the rain? Like, why not? And we had the best time. It was pouring torrential downpours almost the entire time we were there. And we still say, this was years ago, we still use that phrase when other families say why, we say why not.
Wow. So I think I should make a title of my this show. Why not? And I'll give you, of course, it's your credit. Okay, two more questions. Thanks so much. That's very heart touching. Thanks so much for that's very inspiring. Actually, why not? Why not me? And why not
Yeah.
now?
Yes.
Right? When we make decisions, when we agree on certain things. Now, Kevin, tell us what is your message to the beautiful people of the world?
I would say stop comparing yourself to others. And especially stop scrolling on social media and comparing yourself to what you think is real. From a financial perspective, I see so much of that where, you think years ago, one of my favorite sort of financial quotes is comparison is the thief of joy. And it's true, right? And you may be comparing yourself, years and years ago before social media, you were comparing yourself to your neighbors, right? And your coworkers, and that's hard, right? Because maybe your coworker has a nicer car, or your neighbor has a nicer house, or a better lawn, or whatever it may be. And so that's hard. But now in the world of social media, you're comparing yourself to people all around the world. And you're comparing yourself, you're seeing sort of the highlights, right? You're seeing what they want to show you. And you're seeing these sort of small snippets. And it makes it hard from a financial perspective because you inevitably want what you're seeing as real in these contexts, and a lot of it's not real. It's a highlight reel. And so for me, it's sort of stop scrolling, stop comparing yourself to others, and get outside. I try to get outside on a regular basis, whether it's just myself for a quick walk or with my kids. Get outside, put your phone away.
Lovely. This is such a wonderful, very peaceful, very divine, yet spiritual, yet intellectual, yet financial answer ever you've given. Thanks. According to me, so far on the show. I don't doubt your intelligence, but thanks for sharing this beautiful message. So simple. Is the reason because I think Warren Buffett did not have his social media or something?
Maybe.
See, all this tycoon up there who are making billions and trillions, I've never hardly seen they have their own social media accounts and all, apart from some Twitter sometime. Their administration people will do and all. Anyways, thanks so much, Kevin, for sharing your wise wisdom, beautiful thought, practical advices, suggestions for the financial and lifestyle advancement. Such an incredible time you have shared with us. Our audience is very delighted, hopefully, when they're watching and listening. What a wonderful thing. So, thanks for the listeners that will be listening or watching. What is the one thing that you want to take away from Kevin's idea, strategy, and planning? You can always mention in the below comment. And this is an incredible time of the life where a lot of crisis and a lot of highs and lows, as the tide of the ocean never comes in the same way. It goes back, comes back. The life, finance is also like that. We are up in the bracket of the finance, then the lower bracket of the pyramid. So life is upside down and all. Thanks so much, Kevin, for sharing your wonderful thoughts, ideas, and story. As a lifestyle legend you are, and we are honored to have you on our show. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. It was great chatting with you.
Thanks. Same here. We'll see you soon sometime in USA when I'll be on my business tour or my show tour. We'll shake some hands and then we'll rock and roll there too as well.
Sounds great.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for your sharing your wise wisdom today. And thanks so much to the lovely, wonderful audience that wherever you're watching or listening for your continuous support. I am so happy and delighted that for your kind support and all. The question is today, Walk You to Wealth is the book, Kevin's book, and it has changed a lot of people's life. I hope it will change yours too. I am so delighted to ask that what we have done in our life, the question to ourselves we should be asking in individual way, what financial decision I have taken or I'm going to take that will advance my personal and professional lifestyle, and my lifestyle will determine the behavior of my future lifestyle. So what I am trying to do is to ask questions in the way that it demonstrate our intelligence towards financial department. Why I am doing this, why I'm investing this. If I will invest this, so what are the results, what will happen? And if I'll get the results, what I will do next. So these why question triggers our imagination department to bring the best questions answer to resolve all the puzzles of financial situation. Whether you are established or you are seasoned or you're beginner into a financial investment in your personal or professional life, starting with your why, starting with If I will reach that amount of money, what will I do next? So these kind of future ahead question may give you the sensible, practical answer in present to eliminate all the thoughts of assumptions, drifting, and procrastination. So I wish you good luck wherever you are in your personal and professional life. Flourish like no tomorrow in your personal and financial department. Thank you so much wherever you are. Stay excellent to each other. To be happy, act happily. To be happy, act happily. This is Happy Bains here, your happiness coach and host. And to come on my show and to share your thoughts, ideas, and story, whether you're individual or into business, you want to advance your lifestyle, this is the platform. I invite you to my show. You can visit www.happyideashow.com, and we would love to hear you that what you have achieved so that you can inspire yourself and others with your kind and wise wisdom to flourish like lifestyle legend. Thank you.